I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I was married to a woman named Amanda. We'd been together for about 5 years, mostly happy with the usual ups and downs. She was a bit of a bitch sometimes, moody, quick to lie, and always trying to keep the power in our relationship. But I loved her, or at least I thought I did. When we got engaged, everything seemed perfect on the surface. We had the wedding planned, the family excited, and I was just counting down the days until I'd finally be married to her. Our relationship started to show cracks about a month before the wedding, though. Amanda's phone became a fortress. She'd hide it whenever I came close, and her behavior around her friends changed. She'd get defensive if I asked who she was texting late at night, and she'd brush off my concerns with some cocky attitude, like I was just overreacting. But I ignored the signs, telling myself she was just stressed out with the wedding planning. That's what I wanted to believe. I mean, I was about to marry this woman, and I did. Want to imagine she was cheating or hiding something. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be a celebration, everyone laughing, family mingling, a toast or two. It was late, and most of the guests had gone home, but Amanda and I stayed behind with her best friend Lisa. We'd all been drinking, joking around, the usual. I remember Amanda was bitchy that night, snapping at Lisa over something trivial, but she was also charming and flirty. I caught her giving Lisa some quick smirks and touching her arm a little too much, but I shrugged it off. Maybe I was just paranoid. I even joked that Amanda was secretly trying to steal Lisa's man, and she scoffed, calling me jealous. But that night, I didn't think much of it. The next day, things started to feel off. Amanda was acting extra cold and dismissive, like she was already somewhere else in her head. I'd ask her how she felt, if she was nervous about the wedding, and she'd say, "I'm fine," but her eyes looked distant. Something was bothering her, I just couldn't put my finger on it. Then, on the morning of the wedding, I woke up early, eager to get everything done and finally become her husband. That's when I noticed it, her purse on the bathroom counter. I was about to grab my suit when I saw it. Her purse was slightly open, and nestled inside was a hotel key card. I froze. My heart started pounding. I grabbed it and looked closer. It wasn't just any key card. It was to the Marriott downtown, the one she'd stayed at last night. I knew because I'd seen the receipts in her wallet, but I never thought she'd actually use it. I flipped the card over and found a small lipstick stain on the back. That's when it hit me. She'd been with someone else, and I had no idea who. I felt sick, but I also felt this terrible, boiling anger. How could she do this, right before our wedding? I was supposed to be walking down the aisle with her, and instead I was holding proof that she'd been cheating on me with some guy, probably during the rehearsal dinner or the night before. It felt like my world was crumbling. I wanted to scream, cry, punch something, but I just stood there holding that stupid hotel key, trying to process what I just found out. I couldn't believe what I was holding. The hotel key, the lipstick stain, everything pointed to Amanda's betrayal, and it hit me like a freight train. I stood there in the bathroom, heart pounding, trying to keep it together. The last thing I wanted was to ruin the wedding day, but honestly, I felt like I was already drowning. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she look me in the eye, act like everything was fine, knowing she'd been with another guy? My mind raced, trying to come up with a plan, some way to confront her without losing it altogether. I decided I needed to see her to get her to admit it. I grabbed her phone, her purse, and anything else that might give me more clues. Her phone was locked, of course, but I knew her passcode. She told me once she used her birthday. I hesitated, then punched it in. The messages weren't very revealing at first. Just her typical bitchy replies to Lisa, some flirtatious stuff I'd seen before, nothing that screamed cheating right away. But then I found a message from a number I didn't recognize. Sent late last night. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was just the beginning. My stomach clenched. I knew it was the guy from the hotel. I didn't even need to see more, I knew. But I kept digging, scrolling through her texts. She'd been lying to me for weeks, hiding the fact that she was sneaking around, probably thinking she was so clever about it. She kept telling me she was busy with work, that she was stressed and tired, but all the while she was out screwing some guy. And to make it worse, she had the nerve to lie to my face every time I asked if she was cheating. That bitchy, sneering side of her I'd always hated. She told me I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I was imagining things. All the while she was planning her little secret life. I felt a boiling mixture of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. I wanted to confront her right then, but I also knew I had to be smart. If she was already lying and cheating, I needed proof, something concrete, something I could use. So I kept looking through her messages, her photos, her emails. And then I found a series of pictures. Not just the one lipstick stain on the hotel card, but photos of her and this guy, Alex, together. Him kissing her neck, her smiling like she was on cloud nine. They looked intimately close, and I felt like my stomach was turning inside out. The worst part, these pictures were taken a few days ago. She'd been sneaking around behind my back for a while, and I had no clue. I pulled out her phone with trembling hands, then looked around quickly to make sure no one was watching me. I had to get out of there before she woke up or someone saw what I was doing. I slipped her phone back into her purse, took the hotel key, and put everything back as it was. My mind was racing. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't just confront her now, not before the wedding. I needed a plan. But every second that passed, I felt more and more like I'd been punched in the gut. My brain kept replaying her sneering face when she lied to me, how she'd gaslit me about being paranoid. I had trusted her, and she'd just thrown it all away. I decided I'd wait until after the wedding, but I knew I couldn't go through with the vows, not with this hanging over my head. I had to figure out if I was going to call it off entirely or if I wanted to confront her in the most brutal way possible. Either way, I knew things would never be the same. That day, I felt like I was standing on the edge of some dark abyss, and I wasn't sure if I was about to fall or pull myself back. All I knew was that my life was about to change forever, and I was furious that she'd made me a fool. The morning of the wedding was a blur. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, my mind racing with everything I'd discovered. I kept looking at her, trying to read her face, but she was so good at pretending everything was fine. Amanda strutted around the hotel room with that same bitchy smirk, acting like nothing had happened. She was brushing her hair, applying makeup, and throwing out those snide comments about how people shouldn't be so paranoid or calm down, I'm not doing anything. Like she thought I was stupid or blind. I don't know how I kept it together in front of everyone, my parents, her family, our friends. But inside I was boiling. Every smile she threw my way felt like a slap. I knew she was lying through her teeth, and every second I pretended to be happy, I felt like I was dying inside. I kept telling myself I had to be the bigger man, that I couldn't ruin her day, but the urge to confront her then and there was overwhelming. I was already planning what I'd say when I finally snapped. We got to the church and everything looked perfect, flowers, everyone dressed up, the music playing softly. And then she grabbed my hand with that fake sweetness, whispering, "Relax, honey, everything's fine, just us today." I felt like throwing up. I wanted to tell her she was a lying bitch, that I knew about her cheating, but I held it in. Instead, I just nodded and smiled. Inside, my head was screaming. I kept glancing at her, trying to catch her slip up, but she was a pro at playing innocent. The ceremony started and I was numb. I couldn't focus on vows or the ring exchange. My mind kept drifting back to that hotel key in my pocket, the photos I'd seen, her sneering lies. I wondered if she'd already planned her next move, or if she thought she could keep pretending everything was normal. During the vows, I forced myself to look into her eyes, trying to find some tiny piece of honesty, but all I saw was the same bitchy smirk that made my stomach churn. It was like she was mocking me inside her head. After the ceremony, we took photos with family, cutting the cake, pretending to be blissfully happy. I kept thinking about how I'd been played, how she'd manipulated me for months, pretending to be this perfect wife, when she was out screwing some guy named Alex. I felt betrayed not just by her, but by everyone around us, their smiles, their congratulations. They all thought I was this lucky guy marrying the perfect girl, and I was just standing there, dying inside, knowing the truth. Later, at the reception, she tried to keep up the act. She was flirtatious with her family, giggling at her phone, giving Lisa those sly looks again. I wanted to call her out then, to tell everyone what I knew, but I held back. I had a plan. I wanted to wait until tonight, after everything was over, to finally confront her. But every minute I spent pretending to be happy, I felt more and more like I was suffocating. My chest was tight, and I couldn't breathe right. I kept wondering how I was going to get out of this mess without breaking down or making a scene. By the time the reception was winding down, I knew I couldn't keep it bottled up. I was furious, devastated, and deeply humiliated. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so easily, act so innocent? I told myself I'd confront her in private, but I also knew that I'd never look at her the same way again. Every smile, every touch, every word she said now felt like a lie. I was a fool for trusting her, and the worst part was knowing she'd never admit to what she did. She'd lie her way out of it, I was sure of that, but I'd already seen enough to know the truth. She'd been cheating, and I was stupid enough to marry her anyway. That night, after everyone had gone home, I finally decided I couldn't wait any longer. The house was silent, the lights dim, and I felt like I was walking on a tightrope. My heart was pounding in my chest, adrenaline and anger mixing into a toxic brew. I waited until she was in the bathroom, brushing her teeth or whatever she was doing, and then I pulled out her purse. I needed to see if there was more evidence, something definitive that I could hold over her head or use to end this nightmare. I went through her things carefully, knowing I shouldn't be invading her privacy, but at that moment I didn't care. The first thing I found was her phone, locked of course, but I knew her passcode and I entered it with shaky fingers. When I scrolled through her messages, I found more than I expected. Not just the flirtatious texts, but full-blown conversations with Alex, the guy she'd been cheating on me with. They'd been talking about meeting up, about how hot she looked, how she loved the feeling of being wanted. I saw us in photographs, her smiling with that same sneer, as if she'd been laughing at me behind my back the whole time. There were also photos of her at the hotel with Alex, him kissing her cheek, her topless in bed, her lying there with her head tilted back like she was getting some kind of thrill. I felt sick. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd vomit. I never imagined I'd be seeing my wife in bed with another man, especially not like that. All the times she'd told me she was tired, stressed, working late, she'd been with him. And I had been a clueless idiot trusting her every word. I kept scrolling, looking for more clues, more proof. That's when I found the email threads. She'd been planning this for weeks, talking about how she needed an escape and how she couldn't resist Alex's charm. It was clear she'd been outright lying to my face, and she was so good at keeping the secret. I felt like I'd been living in a nightmare. All the lies, the fake smiles, the fake tears at the wedding, they were all a mask. I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up, not anymore. If I let her get away with it, I'd never be able to trust her again. I had to confront her, but I also had to decide what I wanted. Was I going to stay and try to fix this, or was I done? I made up my mind that I couldn't stay. Not after seeing all this. I had to get out of there, to get away from her lies and betrayal. I waited until she came out of the bathroom, then I told her I needed to talk. Her face immediately changed. She knew something was wrong. I looked her in the eyes and told her I found her cheating, that I knew about Alex, the hotel, all the lies. Her reaction was classic, mocking, dismissive, like I was just some paranoid fool. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're crazy, you're overreacting, I don't know what you're talking about." But I had the proof, screenshots, photos, the hotel key, and it was all over her face. She didn't have a single excuse that made sense. She just kept lying, spinning some bullshit about how it was just sex, how she was stressed, how she didn't mean for it to happen. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. How could she just brush it off like it was nothing? Like I was just some obstacle she had to deal with. I felt tears welling up, but I clenched my fists instead. I told her I was done. That I was leaving her, that I couldn't stay married to a woman who played me for a fool, who used me and then fucked around behind my back. Her face twisted in anger, then in that sick smirk again. She kept lying, telling me I was overreacting, that it was just sex, that I was being paranoid. But I knew the truth, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. That moment, I realized I'd been a damn fool for trusting her. I thought she was my forever, but she'd been someone else entirely. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and sadness because I'd lost someone I thought loved me. but I also knew I couldn't keep pretending. I had to get out of this, rebuild myself and learn. From this disaster, the betrayal cut deep, but I also learned that sometimes you have to see the truth for what it is, even if it hurts like hell. After I told her I was leaving, Amanda's face suddenly turned cold, that bitchy smirk back again. She started to argue, saying I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her, that I was just jealous or insecure. She spun this whole story about how everyone cheats sometimes, and how it wasn't a big deal, that she loved me but just needed something different for a night or two. Honestly, I wanted to slap her. The way she lied and twisted everything made me realize how much of a manipulative, selfish person she is. But I wasn't going to let her convince me to stay. I'd seen enough. I told her she could keep her lies, her quickie sex, and her bullshit excuse about needing a change. I told her I was done, that I'd file for divorce, and I walked out of that house with her screaming behind me. That was a few days ago. Since then, I've felt like I'm in some kind of emotional free fall. One part of me is angry, so damn angry, at how she treated me, how she lied, how she played me for a fool. The other part is just numb, like I've lost a huge chunk of my life and I don't even know who I am anymore. I keep thinking about all the times she lied to my face, how she'd sneer when I questioned her like I was crazy. I keep replaying the moment I found her hotel key and those pictures, how I felt the ground shift beneath me. It's like I lost my trust in everything, even myself. How could she be so cold, so calculated? She was always bitchy, yeah, but I never thought she'd cheat on me with some random guy. And the way she dismissed everything, called me paranoid, as if I was just some insecure fool. God, that made it worse. She's so good at lying, so good at twisting everything. I almost believed her during the wedding, like maybe I was just imagining things. Now I'm sitting here trying to piece my life back together. I know I'll file for divorce. I don't see any way to fix this, not after everything. I've realized that some betrayals are just too deep to recover from. But what's really bothering me is the feeling that I was so blind. I missed all the signs, ignored all those little moments where she was cold or distant, because I wanted to believe she was the one. And now I'm left with this emptiness, this sense that I'll never fully trust anyone again. How do you come back from something like this? How do you rebuild after being so betrayed? I guess I'm just angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, but deep down, I know I wasn't looking for it. I hated the feeling of being so naive, so stupid. I thought I was building a future with someone I could trust, and instead I got played. The worst part is, I still love her enough that part of me wants to believe there's a way to fix this, to forgive her and move on. But another part knows I can't do that, not after all the lies. I've learned a hard lesson. The person you trust the most can be the one who hurts you the deepest. And now, I'm just trying to figure out what's next for me. It's been a few weeks now since I walked out that door, since I found out the truth about Amanda. Honestly, the days have blurred together. Anger, sadness, a strange sense of relief all tangled up inside me. I never thought I'd be the guy to get cheated on right before his wedding, and I definitely never thought I'd be the one to discover it in such a brutal way. But here I am, trying to piece my life back after the betrayal. What I've learned from all this is that trust is a fragile thing. I used to think love was about loyalty, about being honest, about building something real. Turns out, none of that matters if someone is willing to lie and cheat behind your back. I keep telling myself I should have seen the signs, but honestly, I was blind. I was so eager to get married, so convinced I had found my forever, that I ignored all the little red flags she kept throwing out. That naive hope was my biggest mistake. Now I'm focused on moving forward. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout, and I'm working on rebuilding my confidence. The hardest part is just the heartbreak. It's coming to terms with the fact that I was played, that I was so easily duped by someone I loved. But I also realize I'm better off without her. I deserve someone who's honest, who won't be sneaking around and lying to my face. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags and don't dismiss your feelings. If something feels off, it probably is. And if you find out your partner's cheating, don't let them manipulate you into doubting yourself. The pain is real, but moving on is the only way to heal. Don't stay just because you're scared of being alone or because you want to believe things can change. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away and rebuild from the ground up. I can't say I've fully recovered yet, but I'm getting there. Every day is a little easier, even if the scars will stay with me for a long time. I still miss the person I thought she was, but I know now that I deserve someone who respects me enough not to betray me. Like that. As for Amanda, she's probably still pretending everything's fine, lying her way through life. But I know the truth now, and that's what matters. So I guess this is my story. A reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance to start over. It hurts, it stings, but eventually, time and effort will help heal the wounds. No matter how much someone betrays you, you're stronger than that pain. Trust me, I'm living proof.